Anything goes. Anything does go as long as it's theater chat here on Beyond the Green Room. That sprightly music is a tribute to one of my panelists today, a show that I worked with him on, and three wonderful people who are multi-talented and I don't believe know each other, but they will by the end of today's broadcast. So and as I say, anything goes is up for discussion today on Beyond the Green Room. So let me introduce our guests to each other and to you all out there. My first guest in alphabetical order is a neighbor of mine, the multi-talented actor and director, Nick Corley. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how are you? I love an overture.
Well, we choose something else every week that somehow relates to at least one person on the panel. So that got the blood pumping, didn't it?
Yeah, we'll do a little tapping or something.
Okay.
And I don't tap, so that would be scary.
Well, we wouldn't be able to tell that from where you're sitting right now. You could definitely sham dance, as they used to say Lauren Bacall did in Applause. The chorus would all dance while she was sham dancing. So I can't take credit for that phrase. Anyway, let's bring on our next guest, a gentleman who I worked on that show with, and he is the head honcho at the Arts Center of Coastal Carolina, my friend Richard Feldman.
Hey, David, how are you?
Well, I'm just fine. You're all the way in South Carolina, and Nick is downstairs and through the window, and he's actually in our building. And I know you know about our building because you helped me fill out the papers when we were buying this building.
Right, yes, I remember that.
You did me a great favor with that. So we might talk about that a little bit more, but we probably have even more important theater talk to get to. But let me bring on our third guest. She is a lovely and talented singer and actress who I've worked with in several capacities, and she is based in the Philadelphia area. So we have somebody who's a little bit between South Carolina and the first floor of this building. Please welcome the lovely April Woodall.
I'm sham dancing. I'm sham tapping.
Yeah. Out of breath.
Hi.
It's great to see you all, and you have all very different backgrounds. I appreciate the color and the theatricality of it all. And okay, we've switched positions there. I like my masks above my head there. So what we do to start out the discussion every week on Beyond the Green Room is do a little silly round robin where I ask each one of you how I know you, how we first met, how we maybe first worked together. The answer doesn't have to be the same for both of us, and you may surprise me, but I have a feeling I'll know each one, and it just opens up the conversation, and then we get down to it. So, all right, Nick, you're on the top level there, and first alphabetically. How do we first know each other?
I've seen you in shows for a long, long time, but the one that sticks in my head is you came and auditioned for a show I was directing called Lola, about the life of Lola Montez at the Lark Theater Company. We were doing a workshop of this new show. A guy named Craig Saffin and Kirby Tapper wrote it. It's a wonderful story. She was like the Madonna of her time or something.
Yeah.
And so that's what I remember you most clearly from, because I had there was a resume and all that went with it. And then you couldn't do it for some reason. Something else came up, or.
Oh, I'm glad to know you offered it to me, and I couldn't do it. That's nice.
And then we share a Rothschilds connection.
Yes, we do. I couldn't think of the answer to that question because I don't remember not knowing you. I feel like I knew your face at auditions and things when we were both babies. And yes, I did audition for you. I think I did a Shakespeare monologue for you once, which was terrifying because I hadn't done Shakespeare since college, and you were very positive and receptive, and I was very grateful for that. And then after sort of passing each other on many projects, there you were in the community room of this building when we first moved in. You were the last person to get an apartment in this building, and yeah. So that then we've been neighbors, and we've never actually gotten a chance to work together, but maybe we will.
But we're supportive of each other.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Richard, I think I know the answer to the question.
Yes. Anything goes. DJ Salisbury directed that, and he introduced me to you. He said, we have this guy who has to be Moonface, and it was you. And that was a very fun production. Julie Dingman was in it. Russell Garrett, who's working with us right now, he sends his love. He is doing Noises Off with us right now.
Wonderful.
And he sends his best. And that was just an amazing show. That was a beautiful set and a beautiful production. We had a blast doing that. That was the first time I did it here at the Art Center. Did it a few years later, and definitely we ran into each other all the time up in New York, auditions. Stayed in touch constantly. I just love what you guys have been doing, what you've been doing in your career, and I'm so glad that we constantly stay in touch and got to get you back down here again.
Oh, me too. We will. I mean, I know we've tried, and sometimes it doesn't work out on one way or the other. And
Sure.
I know a few years ago you invited me to do something I really wanted to do, and lo and behold, I got a job in New York, and you promised me that you would forgive me, and I see that you have. So that's I would love to go back sometime, and I really appreciate the fact that we've been keeping in touch. And I have to say, whenever I go in for an audition for a project at your theater, I feel welcome, I feel relaxed, and I feel the warmth.
Oh,
so
thank you so much.
I recommend it. Anybody that wants to go into audition for Richard should do. So, okay, April, what's your version of our question?
Well, as with so many, DJ Salisbury and La Cage aux Folles at the Gateway Playhouse. I had trained as an opera singer and at the Curtis Institute, and then did a lot of other things, ended up as Dean of Students at the Academy of Vocal Arts, which trains young opera singers. And opera is a very intense format, as you know, and to have some release, I went back to performing, and very quickly decided, no, I need to go back to performing. So I jumped into performing for musical theater in middle age, which was great for me, because so many young ingenues, by the time they hit the crazy aunt, grandmother roles, they don't want to do those. So it left a lot of openings for me. So I was working on my non-equity points. My equity points, I was non-equity. And I'd work with DJ at the Bristol Riverside, and auditioned for him for the La Cage. And he cast me as Madame Ding Dong. And then in Act One, I played we made up a character for the costumer, I think. And that way I could stand in the wings and watch you completely command the audience. And I was mesmerized. I'd always appreciated really strong performers. And the fact that you would be on stage with just the 30-piece orchestra and just you and the audience and a martini glass. And everybody else was in the dressing room making their costume changes or, relaxing. I could not take my eyes off of you. You were teaching me every moment of the way. And I never forgot that. And then we just stayed in touch. I saw you do room service off Broadway, and then went back to the Bristol to see you do Ragtime. And then just last year, we got to do Souvenir together.
Yes, we did. Very fun, very pleasurable experience.
Yes, that was great.
You were my second and third production, if you will, of directing that show, and suffice to say that it was much more enjoyable than it was fully realized. Not my first one was.
Yeah,
it was pleasant, but you brought everything to it, including. Producers, take note of this. Her own costumes, which were more brilliant than you could have had built for a production. They were so appropriate, and you did most of my work for me. But you were
well. It was my sixth I think it was my 6th production of Souvenir. And the first time I did it was at Cortland Repertory, and Jimmy Johansmeyer had designed all those costumes. And my 2nd and 3rd production of Souvenir, I had rented them to take with me because they already fit, and it just saved so much, budget and everything. And by the 3rd time, Kirby said, "Why aren't you purchasing these already?" So I do. I have them upstairs. I store them. This is the gramophone I take with
I
me.
recognize that.
The rolling cart was made for me in Montgomery, at Montgomery Theater. I mean, I just keep collecting things about Florence. So yeah.
Well, you were the perfect Florence, and I do appreciate the fact that even though you had done it so many times, you were open to trying new things and going a little further out on the diving board. That's the thing that directors so much appreciate. I don't want to fix what's not broken, but if we can go to an area we've never explored, there's nothing more gratifying than that.
It's just one of those scripts also that he left a lot of vague corners that you can interpret in any new way. So it's really kept it fresh for me too.
Well, great. That's great to hear. Now, with all the lovely things that you said about me, I want to talk more about you guys. Richard, I have to ask, of all the years I've known you, what was your journey to where you are now? You've been there for more than 20 years now, right?
I've actually been here for about 22 years, since '98. I was at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta as a stage manager, and worked as a freelance stage manager there for 10 years, and also worked for Theater of the Stars during the summer when I had off with Chris Manis, the late great Theater of the Stars, and did a ton of musical theater all during the summers at the Fox, the Muni, the Starlight, did that whole Musa circuit around the country during the summers. And of course, I've always loved musical theater, but what was great about the Alliance, I worked with some amazing artists. Kenny Leon was the artistic director at the time there, so had a huge repertoire of work. And when this opportunity came up to move to the beach, I was like, wow, let's see how it goes. And moved me and the family, and I thought, well, 5 years will be great. And 22 years later, just can't beat it.
That's amazing.
It's an amazing place to do what we do, and it's a beautiful place to do it. It's a great lifestyle, but the work is good, and it always improves. And we really push ourselves every year. And this year, to say the least, the past year has been an exceptionally challenging push in management and arts management, and trying to figure it all out. And it's been exciting that we finally got approved to do a piece of theater live. So we're very thrilled.
Yeah, this is exciting. You're doing Noises Off right now.
We are. We just about finished up our 2nd week of rehearsals of Noises Off. This was about a 4-month process of negotiation with Actors Equity and creating a world that they felt was safe, that we felt was safe for our staff and our cast and our crew. And we've created an environment that everybody can do their job and do it safely. It's a lot of work, to say the least. We wouldn't have been able to do it unless the governor allowed us to perform. We're allowed 50% capacity, so we're at 166 seats.
Well, you have a nice big space, so you can do that. That's the challenge. But it's a beautiful facility that you have there.
Yeah, it's a big venue, and we figured it all out with all the logistics. And it's all specific to every venue. There's no silver bullet to make it work, but it does work. It is a lot of work for the actors, a lot of testing, a lot of protocols, a lot of safety, a lot of isolation, but we're all doing it, and knock on wood, we're feeling safe. And we're excited that we're going into tech, and that'll open up a whole other level of challenges, but we'll adapt and create and get people back to work, which is the best thing, in a safe environment that they feel good about doing their jobs.
Great. So this is actually the first one that you're doing under these conditions. This is it. Wow. Well, congratulations. And you have a wonderfully talented director who I worked with as a fellow actor in Orlando Shakes a few years back, Brad.
brilliant. It's the second show he's done with us, and he is amazing. He and I worked at getting an amazing cast, and everybody had worked with Brad or with me, and we all kind of pulled people together. And after all these great auditions, and the virtual audition was a whole new challenge, and thousands of video hours, and we ended up with some people who we all worked with and put them all together. It's a great team of people, and we're very happy with them.
Great.
And they're all feeling great about it. And Brad's just a lovely man to work with, and exceptionally creative. And we think of things that are a little different with the show. But Brad's great. He's a funny man and gets the comedy. And
great. Well, please give him my best, and as well as to Russell. So it's nice to know that you do want actors who have performed that there to come in another capacity as a director. I know that you've done that with Russell and now with Brad, and I'm hoping maybe we get a chance to do. It brings me to my question for Nick, because Nick, is a prolific actor and director, and you seem to be one of the people who can juggle this successfully. And I know, for me, we have to, because we need to work and we want to be creative in as many ways as possible. But how did that all come about? Did you always want to direct, or did you segue into it, or?
I always kind of did both. Even in college, my big thing as an actor was learning not to look outside and just be in the moment and look from within. So I always was figuring out my brain of going back and forth between those two things. Because when I'm acting, I really don't want to be watching myself, So I've always had I always kind of saw movies in my head of moments and things and what they should look like and stuff. So once I learned to separate those two things, they kind of work as parallel careers for me. So I directed some directing in college. I actually directed Aaron Sorkin in a little thing we did, a few scenes from Getting My Act Together back in the day when we were in college together. And then when I was doing The Rothschilds off Broadway, the revival, because you were in the original on Broadway, and I wanted to direct something before I turned 30. So Ubu Rep was downtown, and we rented the space. I got some money together, rented the space, and we put on a show. It had a great cast. And that was the first thing. And then people saw that and started hiring me for other things. And it all just sprung from there. And I considered the money I spent was my graduate school. So I learned about producing and directing. And then things just took off from there. And I've directed all over the world now. And we have this Woody Guthrie show that we've toured all over the world for the past few years. And I got to be an associate director on Broadway for Burn This, and I was just working on Plaza Suite when everything closed down. And
oh wow,
yeah. So the day before it was the day of our invited dress, the day before our first official preview. It was invited dress, and we were all heading down to the theater, and I got a phone call saying don't come. So I guess the set is sitting there in the theater, I imagine.
Well, I hope it is, and I hope you get to dust it off and
get Matthew and Sarah back up there, because they were brilliant in Boston, the two of them. So
that's great to hear.
It was fun.
After this, we all thought it was going to be a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then and we really hit a dark spot when it looked like there was no end to this. But obviously, we're plowing through, and hopefully we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I know I'm revving up for things and getting my hopes up to that some of the projects that I had 3 lined up that went bing bang boom.
Yeah,
and I'm seeing sprouts that they may come back again very soon.
The theaters keep staying in touch and saying, okay, because we were supposed to do the Woody Guthrie show at Actors Theater of Louisville. And, we're still on the docket. It's just when things are going to start. Yeah. And I'm the associate artistic director at Savannah Repertory Theater, which is not far from Richard.
Oh, yeah, they're great people, yes.
Yeah, very lovely. So I've been there since the beginning. And it's just been, figuring out the puzzle. because we have a small space, 99 seats, so a half an audience, it just becomes unaffordable.
That's what I'm kind of pointing out to Richard, that how lucky he is that he has a big enough space to be able to do that. So,
but like this summer, so we kind of took the year off and to regroup and really build the company, because it's a new company. But how can we do something in the park this summer? Can we do? And we're in meetings with the Savannah Philharmonic to try to do something with them in late fall next year, and looking at venues and how many seats, and what if it's half of that amount, and all that. So it's just an interesting way of solving things. You just have to solve things differently and, keep going.
Well, I did the play virtually here. I think you're working on something similar to that right now too.
I have a rehearsal right after that.
Well, I found that because I was approached as a director with a new piece, and it was one that was really going to be difficult to do this way. And I had made some suggestions about the play, and in a way, I was relieved that it didn't happen. It didn't happen not because of that, but I think it was because the playwright thought that the piece was perfect as it was, and there was no improvement to be made. So we reached a sort of a pleasant but parting of the ways. And I've not seen what anybody's done with it since then. But I realize there's nothing like being in the room where it happens. And I did do a Lorraine Hansberry play through Theater Emory a few months ago.
Oh,
and it was interesting because they did it as a capture and then ran it for a week. So it was almost like doing film work. But I found that the director, who was very intelligent and talented, initially didn't know where to tell us to focus at, because we'd be talking to the person over here and I'd be looking over there, and so it was a challenge. But the result was quite intriguing and very worthwhile. But
I have to say something really fast. I think I'm rehearsing right after we finish this. And we're doing Brilliant Traces, which is a two-hander from the 80s. And Victoria Mack and Andrew Grilarte, who she's NYU grad acting, he's Yale grad acting. They're married. They have joined the SCAD faculty down in Savannah. So they live down there and have a garage, and it's a two-hander. So we've set up the set in their garage. And I zoom in and watch rehearsal in their garage, and we're filming it, and we'll air it as a film piece, like what they do in London with some of the shows and things like that. But it's been funny. I know their garage very well now. So, and it's a two-hander, and they're married, so they can be near each other because they're their own pod, and it's been an interesting way of doing it. You make things work.
Well, we here on Beyond the Green Room, I get invited to so many people's homes and offices, and I dare say even bedrooms on this show. So I do feel like I've been to your home for at least a few hours in the afternoon. April, doing Souvenir is a two-hander. There should be some opportunities to get that done in a virtual space like this.
It could be. My daughter wants me to start a podcast where I appear as Florence and answer people's questions about life. So I haven't really pursued that. It would be a lot of fun. I just recently did, for years I was going to Missouri to Arrow Rock to do Christmas Carol. And it was a piece that we'd been developing over years, and every year something new, creepy and wonderful happened. And Quinn Gresham, who's the artistic director there, is quite devoted to the script. So he asked us to film our parts at home, black backdrop, and he told the story as a Foley person narrator. And he was in a circular desk with all the Foley, and he did all the sound effects and told the story and lit candles and rang bells. And then we appeared sort of in a ghost-like manner above him doing our roles with each other. It was really interesting because our instructions were, look off camera to the right, do your lines, because your scene partner is going to be looking off camera to the left, and then he would match it together. It was delightful. As a matter of fact, I have a very young friend who got quite scared by it. So it worked. So, yeah.
Well, I'm a little scared by it, but not in the same way that I think that you're talking about. But no, we're not as intimidated by this technology now. So coming out of this, we'll be able to use it more creatively. And
creative people are going to be creative. Immediately. You probably know Maggie Wheeler. She runs a choir, and she has a singer-songwriter format on Saturdays where she brings in singer-songwriters from around the world. And we sometimes have 500, 800 people that zoom in from around the world to hear new songs and, share what's going on with their recordings and their releases and everything. I mean, yeah, creative people are going to be creative. And it's, I look forward to figuring out how we add this into what we already do.
Well,
somehow.
That's the point. We want to add it in, not
rely on it.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
And I mean, we certainly have been doing a lot of that, all of us, and in ways that we never would have thought of. So we have to make the lemonade out of the lemons, and we're continuing to do that. So I wanted to show a clip of you in action as Florence, because this is a little bit of a promo from Arrow Rock, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And what always astounds me, because it's very hard for a good singer to sing badly on purpose and make it look truthful that they're not doing it on purpose. Do you know what I
trying too hard?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a skill, and you from word go were able to do this. Having directed the show several times, I watched an awful lot of Florence, and I would say that you capture her as well as any actor I've ever seen.
Thank you.
And
I had the benefit of, while I was in opera school, basically learning her repertory that Stephen Temperley put into the play. So I didn't have to learn it and then mess it up.
Yeah,
I already knew it, and I enjoy messing it up. Isn't that terrible? Poor Verdi and Mozart. I'm so sorry. I enjoy messing it up. I basically kept my same technique of supported singing, which I was so blessed to study with Todd Duncan, who was the first Porgy and Porgy and Bess.
Sure.
And he's an amazing teacher, and he taught, low support and find the character in your voice. And so I just keep the technique, and I just mistune my ear. And then I do a really good job of messing up the languages, which I always actually did. I always messed up the languages really well. So I get so much pleasure out of actually singing out of key that sometimes I have to check in and say, wait a minute, was that off key, or was that correct? I need not to be correct. So I sometimes have to check in and make sure.
Well, you have to get fairly close in order for it to be plausible too. Do you all know Jonathan and Darlene Edwards? You know who I'm talking about, Nick. It was Joe Stafford and her husband who did this at parties. She did this, The Bad Singer, and her persona was Darlene Edwards, and he would play the piano, and they did it to entertain their friends. And eventually she started recording as this persona, and I met her on a world cruise several years ago, and she said that she was getting more play, and she's since passed away, but she said she was better known for that than all of her jazz recordings that she did in her whole career. And wow. It's hysterical because they're just a little off. If you play it at a party, she adds an extra beat, or the pitch is just a little bit wonky, and at first you don't know it. So if you play it at a party and you're talking to somebody and they go, what is that? It's hysterical. So that's what reminded me of what you have done with Florence. And so let's just take a look. It's just a couple of minutes here of you at work. I wish we had our production, but but here's the one that you did at our Rock Lyceum a few years back.
There were gasps, sudden shrieks. They jumped to their feet and run up the aisles. You'd hear doors banging and the sound in the lobby of people laughing. When they got themselves under control, they'd make their way back to their seats, flushed, still wiping away tears. You see a lot from a piano bench. Praise for the years at Torbay, I'll go my way, you'll go your way. No.
Shake those maracas, I'm telling you. I think there's a song called "She Could Shake the Maracas" that Rogers and Hart wrote. They might as well have been talking about you. But yeah, that's it says it all.
I have to say that the comment that I love so much receiving after doing Florence is that people will come up to me and say, if she believed that she could do it and she was that bad, I'm going to go home and pick up that hobby, that craft, that thing I love that everybody tells me not to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do it with that kind of confidence. So I love that comment.
Of that play in a lot of ways. There's that beautiful line, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but where the cosmic character says, you know, I began to prefer her rendition as to the right one because it was so heartfelt and so honest, and it's an interesting comment that it teaches us about what is the truth in any art. I mean, it's and as I brought up yesterday to another friend of mine, if you Barbara Cook always said, if you do it your way, you have no peer, and certainly Florence Foster Jenkins had no peer.
Well, Cosme says, I heard Rosa Poncel and something was missing.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, that's what I was searching for. Thank you for helping me out with that.
It's all in my head. It never leaves.
Well, I was remembering Anything Goes too, and the fact that you, Richard, are so accommodating to actors who want to be directors and vice versa. I remember now that you guys allowed me to come a week late to rehearsal because I was directing a production of South Pacific at Surflight at the Jersey Shore, where April and I worked, and it was like trying to catch a moving train when I got there, but because everybody was so generous, and we had a very big cast and a big orchestra, and but you were very accommodating with that.
Well, the thing is, you got to be flexible no matter what you do. And actors coming from all over the country, people are working different jobs. Things change constantly. You have to remain open to that. And, with a small professional theater contract, we're not a LORT, we're not a production contract. We accept it, and you work with it and balance it. I mean, now it's a little bit different, but I think back when in the before times, we could stay open and flexible with people. And I wanted to interject about Souvenir. I got to get the script. I just love what you were doing.
I will
April,
send it
it
to
was,
you.
and you're right about the costumes. I'm so glad you kept them all. They're perfect. I couldn't believe the second one just killed me. But those are kind of the pieces that we're looking at as we're evolving. I think we're all trying to evolve and look at pieces. I would certainly love to continue doing the bigger shows, but things are going to change, and it's about the margin. When the audience feels good about coming back, we'll get back to big shows. We'll continue to try to do big shows, and we were planning on doing bigger shows. But we do have to remember that it might not happen immediately. So we have to keep ourselves open to what else is going on and what else is out there. So I absolutely want to look at Souvenir. So
I will send it to you.
Please do.
I will.
It's a wonderful piece, and the beauty part about doing it over and over again is you always find something new the next time. And
I can completely imagine.
Yeah, I know. We did when we did it. You walked really far out on that diving board and took risks that you hadn't before, and I was quelling every time I saw you do it. So it was thrilling.
Thank you. I have to say, I missed an opportunity to work with Richard because of DJ Salisbury. I believe he was directing Man of La Mancha for you at one point, several years ago.
He did
And
directions of La Mancha for us.
and
As they were just brilliant. Both very different, obviously different leads and different casts, but we were fortunate enough to have the same set. The wonderful late great Bob Phillips designed both sets, and yes, it was great. So what was this? It must have been the second one.
it might have been because Man of La Mancha was the first thing. I saw the touring company with Richard Kiley when I was 6 years old, because they used to tour. Whatever show won the Tony that year used to go out to the provinces. And I was a kid growing up in Texas at the time. And my parents couldn't find a babysitter. So they just took me with them and sat me up on a cinder block wall thinking, oh, she's 6. She's not going to know anything. And I walked out of there. I was spawned in a ditch by mortifying my Midwestern parents. But anyway, so the only role really for me in that is the housekeeper, and so DJ had brought me in, and I agreed. It was such a warm audition room that you created. But at the same time, I got offered Opal, and Everybody Loves Opal, so I couldn't come and be with you. So that was my first actor's dilemma of rock and hard places, as it were.
Isn't that a wonderful dilemma to have? And actually, as you're saying this, I think you guys may know that I've done La Mancha like 12 times, directed it, and I believe that DJ had wanted me to do it initially the first time that you guys did it down there.
I do remember that, yes.
And I think that I went with a role that I hadn't done, and I thought, well, but that's the way he thinks of me, either in La Cage or La Mancha. Yeah. So it was actually a really refreshing thing that he invited me to do Moonface, because it just was so unexpected. We have a picture of our production that we found of there, and there's Russell Garrett, who is working for you right now.
Absolutely, and the beautiful Julie Dingman, as well as Reno Sweetie, and boy, the baby faces, all of us.
Yeah, how about that? I feel like it was just yesterday, but I guess not.
No.
The beauty of playing a part where you're playing older than you are, which is what Man of La Mancha always used to be for me, is that you say, oh, can you see a younger guy in the part? But now you look at it, something like that, and say, maybe if I shave the beard, get a little suntan, I can go back and play Moonface again. There's one part that I've played almost as many times as Don Quixote, and that is Scrooge. But I've never done it in a version that Mr. Nick Corley has been involved. Nick, how many years did you do Christmas Carol at Madison Square Garden?
The show ran for 10 seasons, and I did 8 of the 10. So I missed 2 in the middle because I was directing at the Denver Theater Center, and I was directing someplace else. But I did it a span of 10 years, and then I had been in it in college at Syracuse Stage. And then oddly, like 2-3 years ago, they did it again at Syracuse Stage. So I did Bob Cratchit there. And then I directed a musical sequel of it at Westchester Broadway and around the Tim and Scrooge. So
we're actually going to get to that, because I want to, Westchester Broadway is unfortunately a theater that has gone under this year as a result of that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's horrible. They were so lovely.
Yeah. And most of the Scrooge versions that I did were at Westchester Broadway Theater. We did a country and western one year, and we did that was totally original. We did one that was set in Sleepy Hollow, and another one that was a jukebox version, and another one that was a completely original. But so I got to do so many Christmas shows at Westchester Broadway, but the one that I didn't get to do was the one that you directed, and I didn't even realize that you had until very recently.
It's a lovely sequel to Christmas Carol. A guy named Nick Meglin, who sadly passed away in, I believe, 2018. He was the editor of Mad Magazine.
Oh.
And but he idolized Sondheim, and he loved musical theater. So he had this whole career for Mad Magazine, but then he had written this adaptation. So it's really fun and inventive and stuff. And then Neil Berg, who's also who does so much, did the music. There's some beautiful songs in it and stuff. And so we worked on it originally at at the New York Musical Theater Festival is where I first came on to do it. And we did it there. And we've been doing it on and off through the years in various, places and stuff. And now we do it to honor Nick Meglin. And keep his memory alive and stuff, because he just had a wonderful wit and spirit. He did a lot of those. Remember in Mad Magazine, there was those rewriting of songs?
Oh, yes. Oh,
yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, so that was, a lot of that is Nick Meglin, putting twists on lyrics. His famous Sound of Music one, and there's so many of them, Fiddler. And so he was that person. And so it was fun to work with him on that and get to know him. He was just a dear, dear man.
That's great to hear. Well, I think you worked with my friend George Lee Andrews on that.
George Lee Andrews was Scrooge, yes.
Yeah. So I found this out relatively recently, and I thought that's one of the 3 Christmas shows in 30 years out there that I didn't do. Tony and I wrote one year. We did a jukebox show for them, and I did triple duty in that. I directed, and I remember I said to the producer, "So who are we going to get to play the father?" And she said, "Well, I thought you would." And I thought, well, okay. That's a nice thing to be able to do if you can, and don't drive yourself too crazy. But it is, as you say, a tough thing to do, to turn that third eye off and just do your performance, and then to be in a scene and be looking at the other actors and saying, "How can I help fix this?" while you're trying to give them everything you can. So I've done it on more than one occasion, and as much as I like the double salary, I just soon do one or the other.
I think it's easier to do as a film director, because then you go to the editing room, you look at things differently. You're not doing it in the moment. But I mean, the goal of the actor is to be in the moment. And that's hard if you're doing double duty at the same time. A few people, I think George C. Scott did it at one point, and a few people have done it, but it's a hard, and back in the old days, when they had their theater companies,
right?
And, the actor, producer, director, but it's a hard thing. But theater was more presentational back then too, a bit. So
yeah, but have you done it yourself? Done double duty in the same?
No, I have never acted and performed at the same time that I can remember. People have tried to get me to do it. I'm like, I need to be totally. What do you do during tech?
It's hard. I mean, I usually have an assistant who's, but you have to actually let go of knowing that you're going to have total control over everything, which is something I had to do when I started to direct anyway, because I thought, oh, now that I'm in this capacity, I can wave my magic wand and have all the power I want. But that, as we all know, that's not true. Even in the hiring process, sometimes we have to say, they say, well, this has to be a non-equity contract. This has to be, oh, no, we don't like to deal with that person's agent. Things that you never would have imagined. And there have been times when I thought, oh, I wish I stuck to my guns. And there have been other times where I thought, where was I such a fool to think that I would have control over this? So that's a life lesson too. You have to let go of those things.
I have to say something really interesting. The only job that stayed during this pandemic that I had lined up, I work at there's a high school in New Jersey, Morristown Beard, and they hired me to direct the fall play. So we had to do something because of COVID. It had to be outside, couldn't have an intermission or something. So it had to be under a certain amount of time. So I was generously given permission from the Brecht estate to do an 85-minute version of Mother Courage.
Wow.
Whoa.
And we did it outside. We rehearsed mainly on Zoom. And then we put it all together. And it was a real lesson in what you were just talking about, because they may not have really remembered where they were supposed to come from, but they knew they had to come on, do the scene that they had rehearsed on Zoom and go off. And they couldn't find a prop sometimes. So they would, instead of red boots, here's a red coat. I'll use the red coat. So it was a really wonderful lesson. We did it outside on the quad. It was beautiful because it was on the quad. There was leaves and them pulling the cart around. And it was all these kids. We had socially distanced because it's a war play. We had war-looking masks and stuff that they could use. And if they were far enough, they could, Mother Courage often didn't wear hers, but everyone else would. So it was very safe. They were kept distances from each other. It was freezing cold. It was like 40 degrees, 35 degrees one night. And they were out there doing it. But it was amazing. Watch, if someone came on early, they would jump to that section and do that. They problem solved.
Amazing.
All evening. And that's what it's about. It's about a group of people telling a story and being in the moment with each other and solving anything that happens. So it was so moving watching them do that in that capacity. And also when so many schools didn't get to do their fall play, and we found a way for them to get to do it. It was very moving. And watching them problem solve all night and be there for each other was what it's all about, really. So
amazing.
It was great.
Well, when you talk about the breadth of the places where you direct, and now you bring up a high school, but it was a high school that did Mother Courage. I'm in awe. I think I feel like you all are people that create opportunities, and that's what I think that anybody who's young and coming up in this business has to remember, that the only way to really always have something to work on, because we're so dependent on other people to fund us, to hire us, to create, and then bring us in, is to instigate projects on your own. And I know that I've done a few that haven't come to fruition, but it's still worthwhile trying. And some that were very offhand. I mean, the show that we wrote for Westchester was the producer. I was out there doing I Do, and the producer Lisa Tiso said, I don't have anything for Christmas this year. And I kind of gulped and said, well, I have an idea. And then we had to go home and write it, and we brought it in. And she said, yeah, well, and who's going to direct it? You? All right. And so all of a sudden, I had something that Tony and I sat here in the apartment during a hurricane, or was it the Superstorm Sandy? I don't remember.
I think it was Sandy.
Yeah, we just sat there in front of the computer, and luckily we didn't lose power, and we did the script. And
I have to say, I love Lisa. She's a generous soul with a big heart.
Well, I hope she's watching. I know she's watched a couple of times. She really, one of the things I always loved about Lisa is that she got where she was in this theater, not from wanting to go into the theater. So even though she had a love for it. And so what I appreciated about it was that she did not fret very much over actors' egos and anxieties and all of this stuff. She was able to keep the calm and look at it from a very practical way. And you know, those of us who never imagined doing anything else, I think it was in the womb, because my mother was a performer, that I imagined myself in this business. I couldn't imagine myself in any other business, but because she came backwards, I will share one story that if she were on the show, I think she'd love to tell this story. Maybe I'll get her on to do it. But in the old space before Westchester moved to the place where they were, that has now since closed down, but they were in a smaller space, and they had a buffet rather than being served. This was a dinner theater, so they were, instead of plated service, they had a buffet, and the restrooms were, you know, in some configuration behind where you had to go for the buffet, and they also used this area as a quick change sometimes. Oh. And they were in Camelot, and the Lancelot would rush off and have his coat pulled off by the dresser and slipped into something new, perhaps a suit of armor. I should know, I've done that 3 times. But anyway, this person came running off, and the dresser was pulling off the jacket and saying, come on, we have to do the change. And it was an elderly man looking for the men's room, trying to strip a patron of his coat. These are things that, just as a reminder, if you miss live theater, this is what happens.
These are the things that happen.
I fell into the lap of a little girl when I was doing the Fantastics once, down on oh no, it wasn't me who fell. I made the old actor fall into the lap of. Anyway, and she was more thrilled about that. She thought it was better than Cats to have the actor fall in her lap in the front row. But you know, I guess that's part of the thrill. So as we segue into where we do a little intermission, what I would like to show during the intermission is a clip of the production from Westchester Broadway Theater of, remind me the name, Tim
and Scrooge?
Tim and Scrooge, yes.
I don't believe you have a clip of that. That's so funny.
I do. This is what we have to do, our homework here, you know. And that's how I found out it was George Lee Andrews, and so. Oh,
it's a great cast, Kevin. I mean, it's just a great cast all around.
Well, we're going to show that in what we call our little intermission, where you know, you might want to walk away to refresh your beverage or go to the men's room or whatever, but you might just want to watch it because it's awfully good. And I know this is probably rehearsal footage because that's what they used to do.
Yeah, probably.
So, yeah, but you know, it was amazing to work at that theater. They put everything together in 9 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was 9 days, a new musical. And what's also interesting is because it was on the break from Showboat. So if you look at it, we're in front of the Showboat set with something in front of it.
Wow.
So we were limited to what we could do because there's a boat behind us. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Because the Christmas show, they would always take 4 weeks off from whatever the main stage show that was playing before and after, and do the Christmas show there. And as a director or an actor or whatever, you had to make do with elements of the set that couldn't be removed. So I remember we did something one year that had some elements from My Fair Lady, one from West Side Story, one from Jekyll and Hyde, if you can believe it. And that was a Dickens thing. We made it the winding staircase that came out of the floor. We made it, you know, Dickens Garrett. It was sort of amazing that they ever got those things done. But
I have actually done at the Walnut Street Theater. We did a production of Cinderella on the set of The Odd Couple.
There you go.
Yeah,
All right. I think no more callers. We have a winner.
It's done.
Yeah.
we couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I was just saying, I know the drill. It was what you had to contend with, and as an actor, that you could never do the one before it, and you couldn't do two shows in a row because you'd be rehearsing while the other was, which was a frustration for me. But it was it teaches you baptism by fire, I guess, and how to get it on. We did the producers in 9 days out there, and I don't know how we did it, but we did. And luckily I wasn't in that, but I was just directing it. But I did see my life flash before my eyes several times, and when we did La Cage, I remember never getting through the tech and having to open the next day for a preview audience of senior citizens. And
oh my God!
And I think I was up there on the swing and in my full drag as Alban, and they said, we have to stop because Equity says we have to stop. We have to give you 8 hours between now and half hour, and so if we have to stop during the matinee, we will. And that was astounding. We never went back and teched the show. The tech was done in front of audiences for the next 3 or 4 days, and then we opened. And we lived to tell the tale. So
Tech people are amazing. They're just so much part of the team that they've never seen, and it's like they are the floorboards on which we stand. Pretty amazing.
Well, I'm sure it's nice to hear that from an actor every once in a while. We don't get to say that enough.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to look at the clip from your sequel to A Christmas Carol. But it brings up the quiz question. Now, I know it's a little late for the holidays, but the quiz question today is, can you name Broadway musicals that have Christmas scenes and songs? I know there's going to be one that's very easy for Mr. Nick Corley. Yes. I won't have all the answers, but I have quite a few written down. I was thinking about it in when I was falling asleep last night. So if you can think of any, this is my trivia corner of musical theater that we do every week, and we will open this up to the audience. Let's watch the clip, and when we come back, let's see what we come up with.
Can I ask Christmas yet to come how it turns out?
No, that is against the rules. Your time in that world is over, Ebenezer. What happens there is no longer your concern.
But it is. You did the same for me, didn't you? I didn't live most of my life as a good person. And I'm not ready to be a good ghost until I know I haven't destroyed Tim's dream.
For you are the star that lights my sky. Your hand in my hand, my love will stand together, and we will see through.
Ah, midnight, as stipulated in the regulations. Why are we required to appear at midnight? Perhaps 11:53 doesn't sound ghostly enough.
Just calculate from 1 to 10, then measure it against the end. Perhaps less weight, but then again, to take the lead, one must proceed to act with speed and not exceed the prevailing couplet rate.
That's not the way it is, I assure you. Men can be tender, loving, and coy. By now you should know better. Behold, this letter. First they make you lose your heart, and then you lose your mind. In his embrace and never apart, and she'll always be where he wants her to be. No, where she wants to be. In their life together.
like the numbers on these pages, held captive in tight columned cages, shackled since the Middle Ages, and thus no transformation stages. There's your words. Marriage won't enslave you. Martha's cake will save you.
You're right, one bite and I would soon be dead.
No doubt you'd soon be dead.
In truth, we'd all be dead.
One bite we'd all be.
Happy at home for the holidays. Learn that life is riding. Once you learn that love is giving, love is what makes life worth living. Everything else is humbug.
And God bless us, everyone!
Well, it makes me feel pretty.
Yay! Lovely sequel. Can I just quickly read down the cast?
Yes, please.
Because we were so lucky to have them. Justin Scott Brown was young Tim out of college. Rita Harvey was Martha Cratchit. John Hildner was Bob Cratchit. Fred Inkley, Max Korn, George Lee Andrews, Kevin Lincoln, Daniel Marcus, Marissa McGowan, Anna McNeely, Spencer Platchey, Chandler Reeves, Jed Resnick, and Chloe Tizo were the cast. And we were so lucky to have them put all that up in 9 days, you know.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we're all lamenting the fact that WBT has disappeared now, because so many New York-based actors could work on a long contract for a decent salary and sleep in their own beds.
Yeah.
Which was, and they were in operation 52 weeks a year, and for 40 some years, I would think, between the two spaces. But they hung on as long as they could. But there will be other new things. We're all creating new things. So I hope you get to do the show somewhere else. And
we're looking at it. We're looking at also licensing it. That's all in the works. So we want to do an industry reading for licensing purposes and have them look at it and stuff like that.
Good.
So
Good.
it's a lovely piece.
Well, so we've given people a little time to think about. I think we got some answers. There could be many answers to this question. I just have a few. So what are some of the answers we got from the audience? Yes, Here's Love is the musical based on Miracle on 34th Street. And it, of course, is all about Christmas. And yes, thank you, Jay. And Promises, of course, Turkey Lurkey Time and Christmas Day. And we were just watching The Apartment last night on PBS. And I did Promises some years back, and it's a wonderful show with a lot of Christmas. Anything else? Coming Uptown, which was Gregory Hines starred in as Scrooge, set in Harlem. It only ran about 2 weeks on Broadway. I saw it. I got a free ticket from Actors Equity, and I remember that. And Nick, you know, of course.
She Loves Me.
Yes. Yes.
Which I had the pleasure of doing on Broadway. It was my Broadway debut. So not this last one, but the one before with Boyd Gaines. The Boyd Gaines one.
Well, I saw that one as well. As the new one, it's one of my favorites. I think everybody in the theater loves She Loves Me, maybe more than audiences do. I don't know why that's about.
Can I tell you a quick story? Sure. Jerry Bach had always wanted to see the show on Christmas Eve, and the original, for some reason, he couldn't get there, or it didn't run long enough to cover that time, but we ran over the Christmas holidays. So Jerry Bach came to see the show on Christmas Eve. And at the end of the show, the theater doors opened up, and it was snowing like a snow globe, just with that light snow. And I just thought it was God smiling on Jerry Bach for all the love that he put into the world. It was like a perfect. And Jerry walked out of the theater into the beautiful snow, and it was just like a gift. I'll always remember that visually.
I have to tell you, it brings up a memory. I had seen your Alan Menken and version of Christmas Carol, the first season, And I liked it, but I didn't love it. And a few years later, you very graciously got Tony and I tickets, and I think it was a Christmas Day matinee. And we just adored it that day. We had seen how the show had sharpened and focused and just improved over the years. And you were wonderful as always.
Thank you.
But we left the theater and the snow was falling. It was almost like we had walked out of that beautiful snowfall scene at the end of the show into the environment that enveloped us. We came home and had Christmas dinner, and it's still one of the, I thank you, because it was still one of the loveliest Christmases we just had with the two of us.
I have to tell you, that first year you were talking about shows that you don't get to finish tech. We had not really finished. We had never run the show without having to stop. I mean, one time we lost power. One time the floor opened up, one of the traps opened up and some actors fell through. All this stuff had gone. We'd never run the show. And you have to remember, it's a huge theater. It's, from 33rd to 34th. I mean, it's a block. So there were moments. I remember Mike Ockrid, the late Mike Ockrid, who we loved, called us all together, and Sue Stroman did the choreography, and Gemignani's in the pit, and William Ivey Long did the costume, Tony Walton set. And they said, I know we've never run the show without stopping, but we have all these people coming for this first preview, and with your permission, I just would like to go for it. And so we did, and we got through it. But I remember looking out my little Cratchit window, and there's one of my Cratchit children, because you have to remember, if you left a costume on one side, but you had to get back into it on the other side, they hadn't figured out how to get the costume around the block to get it back for your next. All that stuff all the quick changes had not been figured out. So I look out, and there's my daughter in her slip running around in the Dickensian winter. And I thought, oh, I'm a bad parent, So
well, you were poor, so maybe
we were poor. We couldn't afford the rest of her clothes, but it was one of those that we got through it. But not everyone was wearing what they were supposed to be wearing, and But the second year is when they got to, because there was no real preview process. So the second year, Alan Menken wrote a new song that was put in for me, and things were trimmed and tightened. The story was focused and stuff like that. So the opening number changed the second year. So much, if you hear the recording, there's so much that changed after that first year, which is interesting.
Oh,
I think there were like 3 or 4 years in between when I saw it, and it was markedly different. It had just sharpened and sweetened and everything else that went with it, and it was a joy. It was a wonderful memory. I just want to remind, I think we got a few more of the, yes, of course, Rex is the one that was about the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and his 3 children sang a song called Christmas at Hampton Court. That's by Richard Rodgers and Sheldon Harnick, and it didn't run very long. Of course, Elf, yes, and I Love My Wife has a song called Lovers on Christmas Eve.
Oh, this is Michael Colby?
Yeah, Michael Colby he's one of our star quiz answerers.
Very talented.
Coin a phrase. Yes, he was on the show a few weeks ago, and he always comes up with the answers. Of course, Mame has We Need a Little Christmas, and yes, Annie. Right. And here's one that nobody's mentioned yet, was Subways Are for Sleeping, the infamous flop musical that Julie Stein and Compton and Green wrote. Had a song called Be a Santa, where everybody was dressed in Santa. And Flahooly, Flahooly had Yuletide Park Avenue in the tune stack, as it were. I'm sure there are many, many, many more, but it just got me thinking. So
I have one
that
might not come to mind immediately, but La Boheme, when Baz Luhrmann did his Broadway version of La Boheme.
Well, and so maybe that doesn't quite qualify because it wasn't really written as a Broadway musical.
That's right.
Rent would.
Oh, yeah.
Rent would, right?
So there you go. That's one none of us have thought of, but you stimulated that answer, April. So great. So now is the portion of the show where I asked that scary question, what's coming up? What are you working on for the future? But I really feel like the three of you have great answers. I know one of the things that you're about to do, Richard, you're doing a Johnny Mercer show.
Yes. Well, that is a relatively new play written by Calvin Ramsey, and it's called Johnny Mercer, A Man and His Music. And I'm getting Kim Steiner, who is down in Savannah. He is a musical director from SCAD, and he is musical directing and directing it. And we should have a small company, and we're trying this out as a new piece, doing some rearrangements with the music. Johnny Mercer, of course, is native son of Savannah. But his music stretches the Great American Songbook. And Kim is so passionate about Mercer, as is Calvin Ramsey. So they're doing some reworking on a new piece. And one of the things that's come out of this is that we're getting a chance to do some new shows and some smaller shows, which is great. We did a play that's actually streaming right now called Chip and Gus, which is written by two men who are in Noises Off, Christopher Patrick Mullen and John Lynn. It's a two-hander about two guys who meet up once a month to play ping pong and discuss their lives. Now, they play ping pong. We filmed it. It's streaming live. It's really amazing. It's streaming now, so you can get a chance to watch it. So that's a piece. And with Johnny Mercer, we're going to also perform it live and stream it as well, record it and broadcast it for about 2 weeks to see how it plays for the audience who can't come and see it. And hopefully we're doing Red as well in the same format. And another piece called Just Us, which is it's not just it's us them. It's a new small piece about it's a dark story that happened in Russia during a small little invasion that happened. It was a terrorist attack, and it's a story told by the two children about this terrorist attack. It's very uplifting. It's a little challenging, but it's an interesting piece that we're going to try. That's going to occur in May, that we're going to try to record. On top of that, Noises Off, and hopefully other shows that we're working with, and hopefully trying to get Equity to work together. We're all going to work together to see if we can produce some other shows during the summer.
Well, you're doing absolutely nothing. I'm sorry I even asked the question. You have absolutely no answer to that. I spent 4 months in Fort Myers singing Johnny Mercer a couple seasons ago. Bob Cassiopo put a beautiful review together, and Michael Mackesy, who I know you know and have worked with, he was one of the performers as well as the musical director, so he did double duty. And ours was a little bit bigger because we had 5 of us in the show, but you've got a much bigger space and even fewer. So you're doing it with great economy, and
different.
And I know you will have full houses, or at least as full as permissible, because I can tell you that in Fort Myers, we were extended 3 times, and we never played to an empty seat. So it was a lovely thing to see. Mercer at this point appreciated by so many. It was really great and great to perform those songs. So April, what are you you're always thinking you were writing a play, or
you know what, I've got to kickstart that again, because I really see you as a one-man show telling the story of Billy Haynes. I never mentioned this to you.
You did. Yeah. That's why I'm bringing it up. I need somebody to write this show for me.
Okay, I'll get back on it. In the meantime, I'm trying to learn the script of Bly Spirit in hopes that somebody will do Bly Spirit, so I can do Madame Arcadi. Just always trying to be prepared ahead. In the meantime, I sew masks. That's how I've stayed sane all this time. I sew masks. I've sent them all over the world, and that keeps me busy right now. And I did just want to mention that in that clip that you showed of Souvenir, that was Paul Helm. And you have to be such an incredibly talented person to play Cosme, because he not only has to play classical music, he has to play jazz music, he has to tell the story directly to the audience. So there's direct address, but then he has to be in the emotional scenes with Florence. And so many times people have said to me, "Oh, that's a great one-person show." I'm like, "No, that other person is the one who really did all the heavy lifting."
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We had an actor on a couple of weeks ago who was a wonderfully talented man by the name of Jonas Cohen, who played this part many times, and all I could think of was, I want to get the two of you together the next time I direct it. So
I saw that interview. Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah,
because in addition to that, I think that character also must have the skills of a cabaret performer, because he's doing it in the style of telling these anecdotally, these stories about Florence anecdotally, and so he has to have that kind of rapport, which not everybody has, and
he never leaves the stage.
That's right.
Florence comes and goes. I can get a drink of water. He has to figure out, well, okay, this is a cabaret drink that I can keep on the piano here. All the logistical things that he has to think about. Besides which, telling the story for an hour and a half. Yeah.
It's almost like he has the arc of the play, and you are the ornamentation, the illustration of those episodes. But he goes on an emotional journey. Of course, you have that wonderful moment at the end. We won't spill the but for anybody who hasn't seen it,
spoiler alerts.
It's a terrific piece. It's a two-hander, and it's perfect for right now, and perfect for any time. But it really, I recommend it, and we'd love to do it again. So
we would love to do it
that might want to hire us. And so Nick, you're doing a rehearsal. You have to be at rehearsal right after the show today.
Yeah, so I have Brilliant Traces going on. It will stream for 4 days for Savannah Repertory Theater. And then we're gearing up, everyone's figuring out how they reopen or what they do to ease into that as people get vaccinated and stuff. So there'll be that middle ground. And then I directed a web series called The Jerry Duncan Show, which it's on YouTube. You can watch the 4 episodes we did, and we're pitching that out in LA. So I had to do what's called the Show Bible, where you kind of lay out 3 seasons of the show. So I did that with the writer, Dean Kainer, and we worked on that. I directed that and part of the writing team. So I did that. And then waiting to hear what happens with Sacramento Music Circus this summer, hoping they get to open this summer, because I was supposed to do Carousel last summer with Peggy Hickey. And so I'm hoping that happens this summer, and if not, then the summer after. But it's Carousel, and how often do you do that score? And then over COVID, over the last 2.5 months, I wrote a musical with a friend of mine, Sharon Kinney, who she's famous for a song called Hotel Heart, which aired on the Dance Moms TV series. She sold it to the TV show, and a girl did a dance to it. And I think the story is that she forgets her dance and has a breakdown during the middle of it. So the song charted and everything, and is very well known. And Sharon wrote this brilliant Sylvia Plath piece that I was in as an actor. So I called her and said, "Hey, we got this time." So he wrote this musical called Lost Girl. She wrote the last song a couple days ago. So next week we're cleaning it up and sending it to the agent and seeing what we should do. It's based on some actual events that happened in the Pacific Northwest. And it's 8 people, and it's a modern musical, and we find it very moving and interesting. So things are, you make things happen.
Nobody here in Beyond the Green Room has been sitting around twiddling their thumbs. That's
no.
I indeed am waiting to hear about a few projects that have been shifted forward, and I feel like I have to make sure that I keep my memorization skills and my vocal quality up, and I have to remind myself to vocalize. It's very easy to get into a rut, and when we don't know exactly when something is going to happen, it's a little hard to stay focused and towards that date. But things are becoming very clear, certainly down in Hilton Head, and that's great to hear.
That's great, yeah.
One thing I'm seeing with everybody, with Nick, April, and you, David, everybody's staying flexible. We're trying things that we haven't done before, or like Nick, you said you're writing this play, a musical with somebody. I haven't had time. Like normally you'd be directing and hustling and working for the next job. Now you're going, okay, this is something I've been wanting to do. Just imagine in a few months or maybe a year, the amount of things that are going to spring out of this isolation, out of this quarantine, out of this stoppage, that's going to be a flourish of amazing creativity from all of these different artists who've just gone, okay, I have this stuff, I'm putting it in the can, I'm doing this. It's going to be a heyday. It's going to be a golden era. So we have to look forward to that next thing. And it's exciting. People are doing things that they haven't done before and doing them pretty well.
They do say that Shakespeare wrote his best pieces when he was coming out of quarantine from different plagues that were going through London at the time. Definitely Lear, they know, and they think possibly Hamlet too. So I agree totally.
I had the honor of being mentored by Hal Prince for a couple of years. And he said, some guy named Hal Prince. And Hal once said, he used a phrase that has stayed with me my whole life. He said windows of opportunity. You have to look for the windows of opportunity. And I think that's exactly what Richard's saying. You know, you can look at it on the negative side and just close down, or you could say, well, what are the opportunities that could happen within this? And Hal was always a person who did so many jobs in the theater and created things and directed and produced and, helped shows be created. And so I always look for the windows of opportunity. Well, as Richard's doing and April's doing, looking ahead to roles you could play. It's all opportunities.
I've also been very blessed that a friend of mine who lives in Palm Springs has been running a Broadway sing-along every week. And I help him put the lyrics together for the lyric sheet. He sends it out to all his friends and we Zoom together. And it's really helped me reinforce lyrics that I was uncertain about. And then I also joined a virtual church choir. And every week I get music and I learned to download it on GarageBand. Who knew I had GarageBand on my computer, and I add my voice and then he sends it back the week after and you hear all these voices. People I don't even know. I know the director. That's why he asked me to be in it. But I 15 other people that I may never meet that we actually sound pretty good together, but it has kept my sight reading skills up. That was the one thing I was noticing this week, that I'm feeling really good about sight reading, and I have to warm up. So I had to put myself in a position where I forced myself to be ready, as it were. Yeah.
Well, I have to say that doing this format has kept me in touch with so many creative people, and we feel a little less alone when we do this. And I love the idea that today I brought 3 people who didn't know each other together. And, it gets the creativity bouncing in our heads and saying, oh, well, maybe I should, I'll connect with this one and that one. It's a beautiful thing. I have to say that Michael Colby and J. Aubrey Jones, who is going to be a guest next week, and Michael Colby, who was a guest a few weeks ago, they're now watching and giving us quiz question answers. So they're all part of the community. DJ was on a few months ago. I'm sure the list goes on and on. And the marked difference is when we first started to do this, it was a way of staying in touch, but we were all a little hopeless. But right now I feel the tide is turning. And when I ask that question about what are you doing next, there's not everybody is shivering in their boots because there's not any answer to give. We've had to work through it no matter what. And I know, Nick, you were actually ill a little bit, and thank God you're looking.
I had it over the holidays. My birthday's on Christmas, and my fever broke Christmas morning. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Around the time I'm born, my fever's breaking, and I'm actually getting my appetite back. And so, but don't go through it. It's a little scary, but it turned out well for me. But hey, 400,000, other people didn't turn out well for. So it's, wear your masks and take your precautions. Take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I it's the elephant in the room that I don't like to bring up, but I feel like, we want to hear stories. We do hear all of the worst of it. on television. So it's good to hear that at least someone has come through healthy and happy and creative. And I'm delighted to see your smiling face here.
I know you all know Nick Corley, who I had worked with, and when he got sick, it's when the world started shutting down. He was one of the very first ones to get sick. He was doing Rock of Ages out in California, and that's when I started sewing masks. And every day he was in the hospital for three months. He was basically in a coma, and then eventually passed, unfortunately. And here's a healthy, strong 41-year-old brand new dad. Beautiful wife, and you don't forget that. You don't forget that it could have been prevented. So
no, but I think we all have to keep going for those that can't keep going.
Yep.
The brilliant and lovely Rebecca Luker, who I worked with up at Goodspeed when she was starring in a show and getting her equity card, at the same time, and back when she was just starting right out of Alabama, and we all have to keep going for all those people in our lives, and keep making art to honor everyone, the whole history of all the people that have been doing this. We just have to keep honoring, and the new generations will keep honoring. And I think that's the beauty of what we do, and the appreciation of each other as human spirits. So.
And there'll be some wonderful, ideas for things that we never would have thought of coming out of this. So little sprouts that will be tributes to, in some small way, to all those lives lost. And we have to feel that way. And I looking at the three of you, I know it will be true. So I really appreciate your taking the time to share your stories with us today. The theater community loves this. We all love it. I love it. We want to remind folks who are watching that you can donate to the Actors Fund, and it will help people in all forms of the arts get through this period with their health insurance, their rent, everything. And we don't make any money doing this, but we do it because we love what we do, and we love our audiences and our fellow performers and creators. So I wish you all the best of luck with your future projects, and I hope we're all collaborating again before too terribly long. And my guests for next week are J. Aubrey Jones, wonderful singer. And
J. Aubrey!
Yes, I know. He answered several quiz question answers today. Amy Kesar, who is the new artistic director at Bristol Riverside Theater.
Yay!
Also a producer of shows in New York. And Janelle Tedesco, who is a performer, but of late she is more of a filmmaker. She has segued into doing her own films, and I want to talk to her about the way in which we expand our horizons as performers. I'm very much about that. We've all done that. We all continue to do that. We must reinvent and go where the opportunity is. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you all very, very soon.
Very soon. In person. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Take care.
Nice to meet everybody.
You too.
Thank you.